Yeah.
Check, check. Blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Probably just easier about
Well, I have a brown bag.
Oh, so nice. By the way, thank you very much.
Yeah, here, hang on a sec. I'll get you that.
I don't know.
So the one I sent you is for the Hangout. There's the one for the YouTube.
Not everywhere.
A lot of places.
I know.
some people connect to the live stream.
No.
Either through Hangouts or through the YouTube links that Ryan's going to be sending out in a second.
I'm muted, but basically, is this on right now?
No, hang on.
How old is he now? He is 20.
You should get him for some pink stocking cap for Christmas.
He would wear it.
Okay,
You
so
would
I've got it open.
Okay, so now right click.
Just right click on.
It's still dark.
Okay,
I
then
know.
Do it.
double click. Double click.
Okay.
No, no, two finger.
Two finger.
Right here. There. And then.
Oh, she's not a man.
Does it say preview? It's just previews right there.
Oh.
And then it preview.
Looky. Okay, now can I go back? Yeah.
Now you just
Fabulous.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Jim,
Thank you,
you're
Jim.
kind of brilliant. See, here's what I want. I want
Why don't you join?
not that we don't get good information from you, but sometimes it would be really nice to have a list just
Live
to
and
talk
chat.
about.
And I'll send
See,
you.
and
a
I'll
link.
send
You know,
people who
we
are
talked
using
about
that,
doing a user.
flavor of this, but
No? Somebody uses Google.
Okay, so set it as let me do that.
Yeah, maybe set up a group.
Central Park.
Okay.
I know
It's
that's
hard
right.
to, well, it's doing it for
Like screen captures. Those are amazing.
It's good vision. It's kind of funny.
Can you make me the presenter?
It is. Facebook may not be the right place,
Yeah.
but
Would Google
That's a
Review
good
do
thought.
that without Google Review? Is that a thing?
Either, if this doesn't work, then I'm just gonna log in and CMS support.
We just
We have to switch or something.
Of course we
We're
could.
running out of time.
this is a fascinating video.
We're all moved in.
What is this from?
I think that's what.
No, it's a performance by
A woman in her crow?
a woman and a crow. Isn't that fantastic? It's, and the crow is like some,
It's body of you. I don't know if you're
Well,
gonna.
you know, they say crows are super smart.
Is it a raven?
it's from France, I think.
Not that one.
I'm not gonna.
Isn't that pretty?
Right?
Yes, yes.
Well,
Well, and her demeanor, yeah.
I know. Nevermore, right?
Maybe laugh.
No, it's
I've been trying to get rid
We have to find a date that works, at least for a majority.
That was really good.
but the question is, why does right clicking work
I have some questions.
and the others don't?
Because right clicking is a
But it
browser
just sent
function, the rest
to-
are JavaScript overridden.
But it's a context menu, so it's not a browser function.
You said it too. I just mentioned it.
Oh, yeah.
It's it's a context, it's a context menu.
So they've put it, they changed them to scale,
Wait.
yeah, the override, because what's happening is. like,
There's no dressing room?
The setting, like our setting didn't change, but since they use JavaScript, we can have like a bunch of things.
Downstairs.
Matt, what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to pick them up.
Oh, well, I'm going down to pick one up.
Did you send out the link?
I'll be right back.
I have to get it working first.
Where's my-
Maybe I can join it.
Okay.
Hang on, I'm working on it.
Just click join.
I know there's a lot.
I do, yeah.
Either the text items or if you had.
So-
There's this huge gap. And I'm just thinking, is that something you could start on? Just that, so then just an individual text item? Throughout the whole site? Okay, that'd be great. Do you want me to break that up and send it? Okay. Okay.
Okay, I see you. Alright, the question is, anything show up?
Nope.
I'm supposed to do something to share the screen specifically.
Not really. I have it sharing, so.
How do I get to choose camera versus the screen though? So if you were having me presenting, how do I get to choose camera versus screen?
Well, look what's happening.
So it's just camera.
Interesting
Yeah.
confirmation on the table.
So now,
And if I was like-
when it switches to you.
It is very interesting, that there's a lot of weight on that side.
But look at the screen.
Okay, great.
However, I think four of them.
All right, so give him your laptop then.
Yeah, you're right. That's why. You guys always see it.
So those two are actually coded.
Mm.
These were developed there or in planning.
Oh, no?
There's a lot of. Oh.
You guys used to work together. Okay, gotcha.
Oh, I used to work with him.
So Donna and Sean are both from Environment Health and Safety. Sean works, life saving stations, so lake safety. Donna is.
There's a rescue me once or twice.
Are you a sailor?
Kayaking or?
I go for sailing.
But you don't anymore?
I don't currently, I did, but I did, I have flipped the boat over several times, to the point where it had to be towed out. That's not abnormal.
First learning to-
No, it's still seven. Sometimes they flip over and then the never doing it suck down or, you know, things happen.
Beep, 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 beep. That's what it is, yeah.
$4.50, but I just did a basic label printer. And, so I sent her, I sent Paul the message saying, you know, this is what they're doing downstairs. I'm gonna just get an extra one and put it on the other machine so that they both have one.
Give it a listen.
And,
Test,
okay,
test,
just
test, test.
just send it to.
You don't have anything?
Or just send it to Carlos, tell her I've approved, attach the CD. So I did, and I sent her what I wanted. She
Nothing?
ordered two, one for her,
Nothing?
one for.
Hello?
downstairs.
Hello?
What she was-
Hello? 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 2, 1, 2. Yep. Front and back.
Well, nothing's working well, so I'm willing to try just about anything.
I didn't know he was coming.
Nothing?
So calorie for, makers or
All sorts of stuff.
What about now? It's registering sound on the Hangout.
It is. It's registering online too, so I can.
Hopefully the whiskey will,
How do you hook it up to the, how do you designate what mic you're using for your webcast?
No, I have the mic.
You have the mic muted there? Wait, you have the mic muted?
Like, check, check, check.
Yeah.
No, turn red.
Hello. Computer.
Try taking that off and changing it to your audio. your default.
I did. I did.
But they do it. They have this. They have. It's capable. Yeah. But it's for people. Right.
Is there some setting on yours that's like muting?
And then you have to like override it. It's like probably like 4 or 5 notes long. Okay, so
Hi, folks. We're working through some technical difficulties, so give us a moment.
So you can at least see the TV. How you doing? Good.
I can update that.
Come on, we'll get another chair. There's room next door, it's probably got some chairs.
I'll take this one tomorrow.
Oh,
Nothing?
okay.
Well.
I didn't realize we was gonna try that.
I just didn't want him to walk to check around. Okay. We'll talk later. We will.
What did you guys get this one?
troubleshooting technical difficulties.
I got nothing.
Yep. Hello? I mean, it's again, I got a couple of green dots showing up, but that's not, you're not hearing that, are you? That's great.
Can you post anything out to the Hangouts and saying we're working on the sound?
I spoke to it, but I still don't even hear myself when I speak. So,
I can hear you.
yep.
Okay. So,
That right. You have your default set up as your mic. So go back to your setting. Your the settings here.
Yeah, I got it.
And you set yourself up as the default, whatever the onboard microphone is.
Wow.
Do you want me to just go ahead and set?
It's over a mile
Yes.
wide.
You present, but talk here.
well, we should be able to pick you up.
Okay. So wait, is this showing or section?
Pay attention to that one. This one is just for audio.
Okay.
Can you put your one in front of them so you can copy and see at the same time?
Hi, Ryan. Are you? Can you hear the audio? Can you turn yours on? Sure. All right.
Well, turn it off.
All right. Sorry, everybody. We don't know. Something happened with everything, but it's working now. So we're going to try to be quick. Welcome to the July WiscWeb CMS Brown Bag. I have to restart. So let me. We have a couple CMS-related items to go over, and then Jim Vogel will be talking about the WiscWeb CMS Assessments Committee and their recommendation. That came out in June, which we'll go over when we get there. We want to go over a couple of things first. Phil Jocumson, would you like to go over the maintenance this weekend? You sent out an email. What the maintenance entails and what what people need to know.
Yeah, so this weekend we're doing a database maintenance thing where we're moving to the new Oracle database infrastructure that the RMT has in place. It's called Exadata. It's at 2 different sites. Much different, more robust setup than we previously had. As far as what's going to actually happen, again, the timings work out to be that the WiscWeb CMS.wis.edu editing interface is going to be down all the way from 8 a.m. to about 2 p.m. on Sunday, hopefully sooner than that. That's a little bit outside of our extended window, usually from 8 until noon. But the database portion is going to happen from 8 until noon, and then set aside about 2 hours or so for us to go through and double check and triple check everything to make sure that there's nothing different. This is going to be a full copy of the database. There's a couple conversion steps and data transfer that has to happen, but we want to let you guys be able to do editing right up until that 8 a.m. time frame before we do any snapshotting of the information. Again, the general thing is that we'll send an all-clear email once we actually get the maintenance complete. We've done this a couple of times now with our test database. We've also done some examples of taking the production database and hooking our test server up to it. So we've done this process a couple of times now with this move to Exadata. The neat thing about Exadata going forward is that there's a few things that they can enable in the next maybe half year or something like that. where we can get some higher DR kind of things. In the past and even right now, it's still kind of a single server situation where the server, while it has high uptime itself, is fine. It's not multiple servers at multiple sites, and that's one of the things that they're enabling with that. Exadata primarily though was driven as far as who's going to use that extra availability, but large, HRS, SFS, ISIS, those PeopleSoft systems on campus. So again, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Hopefully a little bit sooner than that on Sunday. But if you have any questions about that, let me know. There is like literally no difference between what's going to be in the CMS before 8 a.m. and afterwards. We're just going to stop everything, take a full copy of everything, and bring that over. There'll be no difference in where you log in, etc. Just that it'll be already after 2 p.m. for sure. Hopefully soon. And then we got the right-click thing that Jim's going to talk about, I assume.
Yeah, we have two, and then we have two things to go over quickly here for OpenText. The first is that several people noticed that this preview page feature used to open a new tab, but now does not, which some people really liked having the tab option because they could then compare side by side the preview versus the red dot, having the red dots. So this is from the latest patch that happened. What we have for you right now is a workaround. If you go to the page, you want to click on the red dot to open the page, right-click, preview, and page preview. It will bring up a new tab. So this will allow you to replicate the functionality without having that preview link work. We are aware of it. If Joe and the developers can get that working in an easy enough amount of time, we will restore that functionality at some point. But for right now, this will give you the option to open in a new tab so you can do your side-by-side. Any questions on that?
You can also just, on a Mac, command click the preview page link, or on a PC, control click.
So those are another options for you to open in a new tab. And then the second thing we would like to show you is in the latest patch, when you make new pages, whether it is a blank page or a foundation page or an accordion panel group or anything, you should notice a new field called file name. This was added by OpenText. I believe Phil said several years after we requested it, so just came out in the latest patch. So file name is what your file publishes as to the website. So index.htm should be your default homepage. So for the homepage, you should see a file name of index here. All of your pages should have names. The reason for this is search engine optimization, as well as customers, instead get a number. So if you don't name your pages, all your would be like 100.htm, 101.htm, 102.htm. It helps people know where they are on your site by giving it a good descriptive name. Search engine optimization is probably actually more important because that file name is a big part of what we believe Google uses in how they rank your search results. This has happened a couple times in the past few weeks where people have seen pages change rankings, and one of the things that I first noticed is that they either didn't have the correct words in the page name or had no page name at all. And that was the first thing I recommended changing. So one of the feedbacks was like they were looking for a certain type of loan, so it was grad loan, but in the page name was just the word loan. It didn't have grad in there, and the search for grad space loan was not finding the term grad loan, which was all one word on their page. So be very careful about those sorts of things, because Google, they don't try to interpret what you're doing, they take exactly what's on there. So if you're not having the correct terminology, and if it's not in your page name and spelled correctly on your pages, it's not going to find that. So what else do you need to know about file name? Blank pages, any foundation pages need to have a file name. That's what we'll publish out. Unfortunately, due to the way the CMS red dot works, every page, everything you make is a page. So a text area in the system is a page. An accordion panel is a page. Any piece of content on the greater page does not need a file name. So that'll save you a little bit of time. If you have any confusion about what should need a page name and what doesn't, send us an email, say I'm on this page ID, which of these things needs to have a page name, and we'll get you the right information. But the short answer is blank page, any foundation page, which is typically a blank page, faculty list or news article will want a file name. And any content on that page, like a text area, picture, photo carousel, does not. Any questions on that?
So you were just talking about the page name that
Yep.
Google was being goes. Were you mean the headline or the file name?
The file name,
Okay.
the actual file name.
Okay.
Yes.
If you have a tab group on the page, I know for a long time you weren't able to send something directly to a particular tab.
That's right.
Is that still the case, or can you use this now to get around that?
Yeah, the question, if not sure if everyone heard that, was does this change how we can deep link to tabs or accordions and link directly to them? We would still not recommend doing that. It has less to do with technical capabilities. We know we can get it working in some fashion. We have found that for usability, accessibility, and search so if you have a page, let's say, that has all the details for a graduate program, and someone's just looking for a piece of it, Google is going to send you to that page, and if there's 15 accordions or users, you're going to figure out where exactly that is. So in general, we recommend that if you need to directly link to something, it should be its own page.
Can we go back to the file name?
Yes.
Real quick? So when you were saying that searching for grad space loan didn't show up, so how would you name that file? Grad loan.
So the first thing to remember about that is they did not have the term grad and loan, and they just had loan something.
Okay.
So if Google is prioritizing and looking for file names and ranking them higher if they have grad and loan in them, it's not going to rank that page very high, right?
Right.
So the first thing I recommended was to rename the page to grad-loan- they had another term in there. That's going to be the first thing Google sees and says, oh, and start moving that page up the rankings. As Google works, some of these things can take a little bit of time, but it's going to, over the long term, get you the search results you want for your users.
So grad space or grad-loan is better than grad loan one complete.
It depends. So in this case, it depends on what you. So I can maybe take this offline. The gist of it is what you think people are searching for. So if people are searching for grad loan one term, then that should be in your file name. The example they gave was grad space loan, right? In which case you should do a dash. Part of the email I sent to him also addressed that issue in MBA. If you're using both terms simultaneously, then you should do a better job of making a uniform verbiage for both our customers and for search engine optimization. There is also the third point. You can't always guess what people are going to search for, but in general, using uniform terminology so that it looks the same everywhere is going to help get people in the right state of mind.
And speaking of it, I know what I'm saying right now, how I'm teaching folks when we get to whether we have created a headline for our page as well as a file name. I'm teaching them now to basically follow the headline for your file name. To get into a practice of the headline should be the point of the content on that page. So if it's page-grad loan information, all three words there, the file name should be grad-loan-information. So it gets you into this common process so that the headline is, it tells whoever is going to edit the content, this is what is on this page, grad loan information. And then whenever so those items then become your search term when you create the file name as well.
So try to make the name as short as possible is not necessarily a good thing.
I'm telling people to be as pointed as possible as to what the purpose of that page is because of the fact that it does become a Google search term. So, and you know, moving forward, one of the things that WordPress does is it basically can take whatever the page name is and it turns it into one long PHP or dot whatever it ends up being at the end of that. So it's getting into that habit, and it's also just becoming a little better about creating those definitive search engine optimization values when you need to sort of build up your ranking, as Ryan was saying.
Right. It should be pointed and efficient. You do not want a page name that is 20 terms trying to catch everyone's potential search terms in the file name. We'll take one more question, and then I do want to wrap this up because I don't want to cut Jim's time short because I think it's important and you guys may have questions for him. Okay. So we can yes.
An underscore is not the same as a dash. Underscores are treated as a non-breaking space.
Yep.
So grad underscore school is one word.
Yep.
Grad hyphen school is 2 words.
And grad space school is essentially also defeating the purpose, because how the coding works is that space becomes a character value in the HTML. In the URL value, it becomes grad %20 school instead of grad school. So hyphens are the way to go, regardless of what you title things.
If we do have more questions on this and we have time at the end, we can take those. If we don't get time at the end, please shoot us an email and we'll answer any questions you have about that. Okay, so
it might just be a quick comment about search engine optimization. Anyways, no, we don't have all the answers. If this is something that you do find a lot of value from, or that you have a lot of questions about, this is something that we have discussions about whether or not we should need to try to get you guys some more resources about what these things are, or we spend an entire Brown Bag in the next month or 2 on this. Just let us know what you guys need, and that's the point.
yeah, search engine optimization is a $1 million business, so multi-million-dollar business, and
Not for any of us.
not for any of us, but for others. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Jim Vogel to make sure he has enough time to get through his presentation. Jim has been very nice to us in putting this together. To talk about the WiscWeb CMS Assessment Committee, their recommendation to MTAG last month, and Jim was on that committee, so he's going to talk about it. So I'll turn it over to Jim. Yes.
For those people who don't know, I work at the Office of the Registrar. I've been there for 9 years now. Been their webmaster for 9 years. And I was on the initial RFP committee that picked open text 7, 8, 9 years ago. So I've been with this the whole way. There was a committee created by MTAG. MTAG is a Madison Technical Area Group, which is a group from across campus who advise, they're an advisory committee, and they advise campus on technical issues. They created a group called the CMS Working Committee. It had a Phase 1 report, which I won't talk about, but I'll just briefly say the Phase 1 report basically said, hey, we need to do something about our CMS. OpenText is not the optimal CMS to use. People on campus are using Drupal and WordPress. We need to be able to support WordPress and Drupal on campus. Let's have a committee. So the Phase 1 report basically said, yes, this is a valid thing. Let's figure this out. Let's have a Phase 2 committee to figure out where we're going to go. So the Phase 2 committee the Phase those 4 recommendations were that we create a WordPress and Drupal infrastructure on campus, that we create a shared library on campus with code and enhancements. We realign the existing resources, including a campus assessment, I'll talk more about that later, and the WiscWeb team to use these new resources, and we establish a governance board, so campus establishes a governance board to kind of oversee all of these new CMS stuff, specifically the new infrastructure, the WiscWeb CMS team, the shared library, and the process overall. Where do you want to go to? Can I go back?
Governance 1.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. So the bullet point we came up with, or the main statement, we basically said create an independent governance board drawn from the wider campus community to guide implementation of recommendations in this report, and regularly assess and evaluate new and evolving web technologies. This is a high-level governance board. It's not involved in a day-to-day operation of the CMS team. It basically says this is what the CMS team should be doing. This is what the CMS overall should be doing. It's a big, high-level board. Its membership appointed by department sponsors, for instance, the chair of the College of Engineering, the chair, the Division of Enrollment Management head. Across campus, they're going to appoint people to be on this committee, just like MTAG has been appointed in the same way. Represent all units affected by the assessment. So there's currently an assessment of about, correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, $700,000-ish, maybe $800,000, something like that. That all units on campus are assessed that go into a pool that support the current CMS environment. It should involve people who are not part of the CMS, not using the CMS, because we want other people to have some effect on this, because they may be being billed for or assessed for the CMS, but not actually using the CMS. And then be comprised of both technical and functional people. We want to have a kind of a cross representation there. The main responsibility of the governance board is guide the implementation of the report's recommendations. So we made some recommendations. The governance board is going to help to make sure those recommendations are followed. Engage in assessment, evaluation, implementation of new and evolving web technologies. Who says in 5 years WordPress isn't going to be out and we're going to use something else because there's something new out there that makes more sense than WordPress, just like there's something new now that makes more sense than OpenText. And conduct audits of how the money is spent, just to make sure the money is being spent in a logical way. Stop me if you have questions anywhere along the way, please. What can the board control? The Library of Things. I'll talk more about each one of these later. Library of Things, the self-provisioning tool, hosting infrastructure, CMS, Drupal, WordPress, and anything that is funded via the CMS line of the campus assessment. So that's the governance board overall of it. Let's talk about the platform a little bit. Create a Drupal and WordPress-based secure web hosting platform and service with minimal barriers to entry. There are a large percentage of the population on campus who use Drupal. There is a potentially larger percentage of the campus population who use WordPress. They're both valid technologies. They're both supported in many other universities around the United States, and it just makes sense for us to support both of those. One solution really didn't work. So that's why we recommended both of these be supported on campus. They fit different needs. So we're recommending that they reallocate the portion of existing campus-wide CMS assessment funding currently being allocated to OpenText and use that to support these new hostings. So $170,000 right now of that $700,000 goes to support OpenText. Move that over to support WordPress and Drupal. Where's it hosted? Who knows? To be determined. It could be a commercial external provider, Google, Acquia, Blackmesh, Pantheon, some cloud provider could be the hosting for the CMS. It could be a campus-based or campus-managed platform. There's a consortium made up of chemistry, there are a couple of CALs, a couple of colleges on campus that have gotten together and are hosting CMS and other things. They could potentially host this also. It could be DoIT's web hosting service could very well host this, because DoIT currently supports both WordPress and Drupal, so potentially. We don't know. It's up to a subcommittee of this committee to figure that kind of stuff out. We're just recommending that there be some platform and they find the most cost-effective way to host it. It provides components of the platform, a secure hosting environment for both Drupal and WordPress, different tiers, and I'll talk more about these tiers later. That's T-I-E-R, by the way, not T-E-A-R. One of which is an easy-to-access do-it-yourself service. We want to be able to have anybody go in and just create a CMS instance that they can then publish, or that goes out that they have their website. So it's really simple. I want to create a website. Here's what I want to call it. Here's what I want it to look like. Boom, it's done. 4 or 5 steps. And other colleges do this. We best practice several colleges that have these kinds of, I think the word, how do you go back, Ryan? There's no button. One more. What was the term we used? I forgot it. Sorry, self-provisioning tool. That's what it was. So there's a self-provisioning tool where somebody can just use this tool and actually create their own website. Boom, they're done. Easy mechanism for providing higher level access to the platform for web developers and campus IT staff that support websites. We know there are other people who want more than just this this self-provisioning just works tier. They need more complicated stuff. Support single sign-on and campus permission infrastructure. We don't want to duplicate single sign-on, all that stuff that already existed. We need to use it. And it shouldn't cost anything. You shouldn't have to, just like you're not paying for OpenText WiscWeb CMS hosting now, you shouldn't have to pay for that hosting. It comes out of the assessment. It should continue to come out of the assessment. These 3 tiers of service, fully managed, it just worked. It aims at individuals without dedicated tech support, faculty, student orgs, that kind of stuff. They can go out, here's my website, really simple. 1 or 2 themes, a couple themes up there, the standard UW theme, maybe a couple alternative UW themes. They just click a button, pick a theme, and they're done. There'll be some modules they can put in there, like radio buttons or accordion panels, but not a lot of complicated stuff. It's fairly simple and pared down. The next tier is the partially managed tier. It's aimed at organizations, more themes, more vetted modules, more access, more control. There's also, we know that people are going to want their go their own way tier. They can do whatever they want. They have all the control they need. Lower level access infrastructure. We didn't talk about it in this report. We felt it was out of scope in this report. It didn't address most of the users on campus. Most of the users on campus don't need that kind of access. There is a current assessment. Talked about that a little bit. So one of our recommendations is repurpose the existing campus assessment and request that Do It reline their existing service to support these recommendations. Current campus assessment wouldn't change. This shouldn't cost anybody any more than what's costing them now. Provide bridge funding for existing OpenText users to help them migrate. So we know that it's going to take at least 2 years, I think the recommendation was 2 years, to get people off of OpenText onto this new platform once the new platform is even up and running. So we have to support these 2 environments, the new one and the old one, so there needs to be some bridge funding. It has to come from somewhere, just to be determined. We think the library of things is really important. One of the problems with OpenText was that everything that Kathy's team developed only worked in OpenText. And so nobody else on campus could use all these great things Kathy's team developed because they're using WordPress and they're using Drupal. So create a library of things where all of that stuff is available for everybody on campus to use, so all of campus gets a benefit from it. So that was the highest funding priority. Recommend that we're not subsidizing individual product developers. In other words, don't hire somebody and pay them to develop all these things. I'm not sure how that works, but that was the recommendation. Continue funding current WiscWeb team. We think Kathy's job did a great job. We want to continue doing the job they're doing, but migrate away from supporting and hosting OpenText and migrate towards supporting and developing for WordPress and/or Drupal. Migration, move the current WiscWeb's customers to the new CMS solution while ensuring comparable functionality, frees up $170K a year. This currently we spent on licensing and infrastructure, provide bridge funding, I mentioned that. The assessment should not be used for OpenText and related expenditures for longer than 2 years after the new WordPress hosting infrastructure becomes available. That's another recommendation. Come up with some plan that's vetted by this governance committee we talked about, and don't create any new OpenText sites, because why create a new OpenText site when we know we're going away from that and we're going to WordPress? So that was another recommendation. And lastly, there is a full report that is available on the MTAG advisory group at that link. You can go out there and read it. It's a very long report, and it's out there in a PDF format. I think the Phase 1 and Phase 2 reports are both out there. See, it didn't take more than 10 minutes.
13 I had.
Okay. Questions?
Do you expect that governance group to be disbanded after the implementation, or is it?
No. In fact, the good question. The governance group is really not going to be involved. In the detailed implementation. We just had an email. We were just talking about that, and the email basically said, excuse me. Let me go through it here. There will be a initial policy and services group that will be creating how the CMS gets created, and that will be overseen by the governance group. And in fact, we hope that subgroup is actually created first, because we expect the governance committee to take a while to get up and going, and we want some group to start thinking about where's all this hosting going. So there'll be a smaller group with a chair, a WordPress representative, a Drupal representative, some people from you guys, the WiscWeb users on this, somebody from Do It, and potentially a couple other people, and they'll figure out where we're going with the hosting and all the other stuff. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Okay. So in the end, will we need to pick between, do I want to use WordPress or Drupal, and how would I know?
It's an interesting question. To be determined. In general, my feelings, my personal feeling, not the words of the committee, my personal opinion, is that a large percent of the users are going to be perfectly fine with WordPress. WordPress will fit them just fine. Groups, individuals, organizations like the registrar's office, just fine. Where I think we'll see the most Drupal usage is in places like the College of Engineering or something like that, who want to roll out a whole bunch of sites, and they want to control all those sites from a central location. And Drupal is sort of well positioned to do that, where WordPress is more, I've got this site, and I've got this site, and this site. None of those sites are related to each other at all. So I suspect that as we move forward, that's the way it's going to be. But again, that's my personal opinion. So I don't think you'll have to pick. I think you're going to go to the self-provisioning tool and say, I need a website, and your website's going to be built for you, and you're not going to care where it's hosted, you're not going to know where it's hosted, it's not really going to matter to you. In the back end, the hosting team is going to say, well, these guys are on Drupal, these guys are on WordPress, and when they go to the self-provisioning tool, it'll pick it based on where they are, something like that. So, but to be determined. Does that answer your question?
It does,
okay.
Except that you created a new one.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm going to pick, I just want to go and make a website. And somewhere in the background it's going to say, based on some of my picks, it's going to say, oh, well, then you should use WordPress. But when I'm maintaining it, when I'm building it, when I'm copying and pasting over and putting in new pictures and whatnot, I got to pick one of those, right? I got to, or do they act exactly the same?
No, they do. They almost act very, very similar. And what really happens is you go to your website and you log in on your website and you edit your website and you are done. Unlike OpenText, which is a publish CMS, where you edit in one environment and you publish to your hosting CMS, your hosting website in a separate server. WordPress and Drupal, you edit in your website. There is no publishing anywhere. That doesn't mean you can't have draft status and stuff like that, but it does mean it's all one environment. So you won't know. You'll create a website, you'll go to your website, you'll edit your website, your changes will be there. You really won't know, except for the fact that they work slightly differently, kind of like driving a Ford is slightly different than driving a Chevy, because the shift lever is in one place and the wiper's in another place and that kind of stuff. Does that make sense? Other questions, Phil?
Just one clarification.
Sure.
As of this minute, at least, the documents that you referred to are not on the MTAG site.
Okay.
I think that's probably just a clerical oversight, though. So.
Yeah, Eric is out today, but he said he'd put them up there as soon as he gets a chance.
Right. Like they're on the test site. So they're ready to go. Just I don't know who's supposed to be the one to pull the trigger.
I think Eric Kiefer is the guy who has to pull the trigger. So.
All right. Well, that's fine. So shortly, we'll say.
Shortly, they will be on the MTech site.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, there's another MTech meeting next week and more discussion, etc. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's an important point that first of all, MTAG, which created the CMS working group, is an advisory committee. You know, they advise campus, but they're not a government. They don't go out and say, this is what you will do. This is what we think you do. Now, the people on MTAG are they're CIOs across campus, so they actually have a lot of horsepower, and if they say something, it's probably going to happen, but not, you know. And this is an advisory report. That doesn't mean this is what's going to happen. This is what we think. We got a whole bunch of people together and we said, this is what we think should happen. MTAG may say, yeah, well, we'll take this, this, and this, but we ain't listening to that at all. We're going to do something totally different. They could throw the whole report away. I mean, I don't think it will, but they could throw the whole report away. It's entirely up to MTAG, which, again, then advises campus, and campus can choose what to do. The provost holds the purse string. He's the person who owns that CMS allocation assessment money. So it's really up to them to make that decision. And it's not gonna happen tomorrow. I mean, and even if we had the environment today, the new hosting environment today, which we won't, and I don't think we'll have it for 6 months to a year, there's still 2 years after that before OpenText is gone. So, and even then, I think Kathy's kind of said, well, we're not going to abandon our OpenText customers, even if we have to support it ourselves. So I think, you know, it's not like this is all going to be something that's going to happen right now. Other questions? Yeah.
Is going to WordPress and Drupal from OpenText like going to Windows from DOS? Is it that much easier?
No. No, in fact, having used WordPress and OpenText and Drupal, though I've obviously used OpenText more than a3, my personal opinion is they're not any easier than any other. But if you've driven a Ford since you were 17 years old and you climb in a Chevy, you're like, or a Toyota, or you know, you just don't know how to use the environment. So it's different. All the same functionalities there, the functionalities just moved around. So I've gotten so used to OpenText that I really like it. You know, and so for me, going to WordPress was kind of like, but then I started playing with WordPress and I said, oh, this is fine, I can do this.
Any other questions for Jim?
Cool.
Okay.
And get out of the hot seat.
So that was all we had planned for today. Are there any questions in general for us? Anything else for Jim? Basically, open questions at this point.
I was hearing, I thought that the page name should be descriptive. That page name should be specific for search engine optimization. A few brown bags ago, we broke down, I think, the Secretary of Classified Staff's webpage with index because it's too long. I'm guilty of having many web pages that are too long. So I was wondering if I'm reading too much into it to say that in the responsive web page environment, many short pages are better than one long page. And if I am, how do I get around the click intensivity that you train if it's not?
Yeah. Okay, so the question is, we demoed the Secretary of the Faculty several months ago, and I believe what we did was we broke up a bunch of accordion panels into separate pages and made the way to get to those accordions in navigation as opposed to the panels. The question arises then, how do you do that? Is it better to have a bunch of small pages, longer pages? If you have longer pages, how do you break those up? Certainly we can meet with anyone who has questions like this. In general, with mobile browsers being much more common nowadays, users are not going to take the time to scroll on their phones for 20 minutes to get to the bottom of your page. Your pages should contain all of the information they need, but nothing beyond that, if that makes sense. I realize that's sort of a easy thing to say, but accordion panels are okay. Having 15 accordions that all have multiple paragraphs in them, I would recommend breaking that up because each of those pieces of information are important enough and have enough information with them that doing it via a series of 15 pages with a shared navigation on the right so people can just click down that row works better. Anything you need to direct link to should be its own page. So whether you're sending it out an email, publishing it in a brochure, should be its own page. It shouldn't be something you put a link on and then people have to figure out which panel or which tab to click on to get the information they're looking for. How do you break apart if you have large pages? You know, that's more of an art than it is a science. You've got to look for easy breakpoints where topics change, where it would make sense to point someone. You can put a link to the next piece of it at the bottom if you need to. If you have more questions, click here. Or have a question about this, click here. You can, again, use navigation, which we can show you how to do, to break up those pages, yet keep them easily navigable for your customers.
Can I go ahead? One thing you might do is get a hold of your customers. Take that page to your customers, print it out, and say, how would you break this down? How would you label this information? What keywords would you use? And what would you call this file name when you saved it? And ask them 10, 15, 5, even 5, 10 different customers, what do they look for when they go to your page? And then use that information, because they're the people who are going to go to Google and put the search, or people like them are going to go to Google, put the search term in there to find what's your information. So if you're driving, if this information is something you're giving to people, you expect people to use it, ask them what they're looking for.
I believe you can use analytics, and Jenna, maybe you can talk on this, just talk about, I mean, if people are going to your page and leaving it right away, it could mean that that's abandon rate, I believe, is that bounce rate, meaning they're getting to your page, seeing a whole bunch of text and saying, I'm not going to bother to look what I'm looking for. So looking at things like analytics to see your bounce rate on pages can also be valuable. I don't know if you have any other insights on this or not.
Well, I think your site is an intranet site. It's an internal site, correct? So it's not, in most cases...
I confess that I was thinking, trying to apply some of the principles here to the Sitefinity-based website.
Oh, okay.
But,
yeah, because, I mean, like the SEO practices, unless you wanted your customers to find your intranet site, it just doesn't apply the same way. But yeah, if you're looking at a different site, then yes.
Okay, well, focus groups I think will be tough, because one of my big focus groups would be potential applicants. So that's, other than herding them together after we've got them as admitted students and asking them what they thought back in the day when they were first looking for us. That could be difficult. But I don't think I need them, because I know that my pages are too long, or I assume that they are. So I guess I haven't heard anybody override my, but probably the only main idea I'll take away from this is that more short pages are better than the long, potentially.
In general, I would say that that's good. It doesn't mean you have, 30 pages that are 3 sentences long. Like you've got, you've got to break it up where it's logical. Look at it on mobile. That's the other, that's the other thing. Publish it out to your test site. Pull it up on your phone. See how long it takes you to get to the bottom. If it feels too long, it probably is.
Ryan, if you can go to the site, I think there's a preview option that allows you to show it in the various responses.
Like in Google?
No. Well, you go within OpenText. Oh, there you go. And then right-click out there, anywhere in the content area. So you go to preview. So there is a mobile preview there. So you'll see that it goes 640 by 480, and then you can go various things. So this is, there is a potential there for you to see. It's not ideal, but you can at least see that there's a lot of scroll there, and you can use that option as well to kind of tinker around with it without having to actually publish it to the preview site and then load up your phone to see it.
One tactic that we used when I was at Environment, Health, and Safety was just to consider the main points that your user needs to know, and then adding a line in to, if you require additional information, please contact our office. We ended up doing that. Yeah. You could throw a ton of stuff at your customers, but only maybe 1% actually need that information. Is that worth it to piss off the rest of your customers by putting it all on one page?
Right.
One of the other things too, so if potential applicants are your target audience and you're like, well, I don't know, if this was too much information or whatever, because by the time I find out that they were potential applicants, they already are accepted to the college and stuff. Another way is just to well, who else is doing this? So benchmark your competitors. What do your competitors have? What other colleges are considered the same thing? Do they have that much information on their pages also?
That's a very good
and that sort of gets almost to, it's like some of your experience with EHS too, where some of it is the point is we have a ton of information for certain topics, and that's actually the point. Like there's a ton of information. So that's ask the customers, if they expect a ton of information, maybe that's fine. If as the talking more towards the brochure sort of site, the less is more, but not all images, no text. I think there's, not everything can be conveyed with images, as an example. But yeah, see what your competitors are. I mean, that's for the WiscEDU redesign and stuff. That's just constantly 20, 40 different examples of other colleges. What are they doing? How fast is it loading? How many images do they have? What kind of information are they talking about on those things? And that's, there's a variety of ways you can brainstorm this. How would I find out more about what my potential customer is trying to do? Well, what are other people doing? The stuff about bouncing things past us too, about like, hey, do you think these look too long? That's fine. We can give you, our opinion about that as well. And again, it's just an opinion, because some websites are going to have way more data and some are going to have a lot less, or some are going to be more image heavy, some are going to be more text heavy.
And sometimes it's required to have certain things. Like EHS had a lot of things that you have to put in there.
Right, exactly.
So you couldn't really work around it. However, I think a good rule of thumb too is just like, how would you explain it if someone asked you, what's the process for applying, let's say? What are the bullet points that you'd give them in a conversation? Obviously, you're not going to drone on for like hours. So what are the most important things that they need to know?
Right. But if it was supposed to be an elevator speech, what information would have needed to be conveyed in that kind of time frame? And maybe that gets to the point of like, you can imagine other ways to organize the data too. Maybe the first thing you do is you give them, the elevator pitch screen, but then each one of those has another much more detailed page that you can get the info you're looking for at that point. Again, we use accordions for some of that stuff too, right? To say like, okay, I'm not going to make this overwhelming, but you can expand one of these and get more information.
Yeah. One other mobile piece of mobile functionality you do have available to you is in Chrome. Way down here in the lower left corner, if you go to, so the first thing you have to do is go to in Chrome, View, Developer, Developer Tools. That will bring up this bar here that I have minimized, but it'll look generally something like this when it shows up. There's this little button right here. It's called Toggle Device Toolbar. So normally your site will look like this. If you click here, you're going to get a default responsive view, and then you have these options to look at what appear to be the latest, most popular mobile devices. And you can use that on your, this would be, you can use it in the CMS. I would recommend publishing to your preview site first, or your production site. And then you can use this to look at how things show up on mobile. And determine, is this usable, and you can get feedback on it. You can show this in meetings and see what people are doing. Also, another good tip is go look at what other people are doing in mobile, as we mentioned earlier. Pull up a competitor site, sometimes you don't even need to go to a competitor site. I always tell people, we had somebody who wanted to add another top-level navigation item, and it would have been their 11th menu item. And I said, go to apple.com. Let me turn this here. This is, the most expensive company in the world, and they have 7 options plus search. I mean, if you have 11 for your site that's getting 500 hits a month, that might just be overdoing it. It might be overwhelming people. So think about how you want to organize that information. Companies like Apple, Amazon, any of your big web companies spend millions of dollars on their websites. And they drive kind of the latest trends. So check them out, see what they're doing. If you have a question, go look at your competitors, look at big companies who are spending money on this. Sometimes it's not always applicable. Not everybody needs a photo carousel for your latest products. They're obviously trying to sell something. So that's something that maybe is not for you, but look at how the information is organized. They don't even have drop downs anymore. It's not like you're going here and looking for which version of iPhone you have, or different versions of the music store, or even support. There's not like the contact or knowledge base or anything. It's just support. There's no drop downs.
I think they split it up. Yeah.
Right. So I know there are options, and I think at the bottom there's more options too. But just from just take a look at sort of the front door of what they're doing. Steal their ideas. They're spending lots of money on it, and you can take those ideas for free.
Hey Ryan,
Yeah.
can you go to the Hangout window?
Yeah.
And open up the chat.
Okay.
Next, there's an SEO.
Yeah. Jamie posted a beginner's guide to SEO in there that would be relevant to bring up.
Yeah.
SEO.
Search engine
optimization.
Hold on. So I actually have it here, and then I need to. Hold on. I got it.
If you want, you can just go to Google.
I got it.
You can type in the.
I'm doing things on a couple of windows here.
Technology.
And if you actually search for that phrase, Beginner's Guide to SEO, it's the first link also. So this is from Jamie, one of the API developers that she mentioned.
So I do want to let everyone know that search engine optimization is something we know some about, but we are not experts in, so we can help with some basic questions about this page or how would I do this. Otherwise, you know, use these guides. This is something maybe we could do more of in the future if both there's interest and as things move forward, you know, based on Jim's proposal and things like that. Maybe that's a better, you know, there's a campus interest there, and it would make sense to have, you know, some training or something like that. I don't know, but so you can go to search engine optimization classes and spend thousands of dollars just in search engine optimization. It is a big business.
We broached the topic amongst the team about the other types of things that would benefit our CMS community, SEO being one of them, accessibility being another, and user experience being
yeah. So there's some people that kind of do it on campus, but no one's kind of dedicated to it. Yeah. So we're with hopefully some of these discussions will start happening. And for right now, we can certainly give advice on specific pages, parts of pages, but we are not experts, and we are not capable of doing, say, a site audit and saying, here's everything you need to do to improve your site rankings.
And there's two different things here we're talking about. We kind of mixed them. One is search engine optimization, which is somebody going to Google and putting a term in there, like grad loan, and can it find your site? Then there's information architecture design, which is kind of what you were talking about, which is how do I organize my site so my menus and all that is all laid out in a way that makes sense. They're two totally different things. And they fit two different people, and actually I shouldn't say that. Some people browse more often than search. Some people search more often than browse, but everybody does both of those. So if you think about your internet usage, there are times when you go to Google and you type a term in Google, and that's how you find what you're looking for. And there's other times where you go to the website and you start using their menus, browsing through their menus. We all do both of those. But I again say some people really like to search, and some people I'm a browser. I hate searching. I want to go to web. The other thing that I ran into, which was kind of pertinent, is custom search engines. So on your website, you can have a custom search engine for your website where the search bar on your website does things different or in different ways than the Google search engine.
It prioritizes your domain first when it does the search, and then it branches it out to all of Google, essentially. So that's what the custom search engine does, is it prioritizes the domain over the entire internet, essentially.
You just want to search for something like
MTAG.
maybe just Windows even.
MTAG, try MTAG.
Well, we know where that one is though. So just as an example, because this is, yeah, so this example from IT Whiskey, you can already tell that they did some things. We got an IT Whisk result, we got a Textor result, a KB result. It's, you know, in this case, they've chosen to take results from a variety of sites and put it in here. But there's other things, as Jenna mentioned too. So, you know, like you can tell it basically to prioritize certain things higher. I forget. There's like an enormous number of things. And since the Google, you know, CSE, custom search engine, is the one that we've, you know, had for you guys to put in your sites if you wanted to search. There's, you know, just like on SEO, you could spend days just going through all of the things you could tweak on that. The first one we almost always tell you to tweak is to get rid of the ads because we're an educational institution. So that's step one. And then there are hundreds of other steps that you can do as far as changing what you get back for results.
And that's free. The Google custom search engine that you can put on your website, that you can customize to do things for your website, doesn't cost you anything, and you can, as Phil said, get rid of the ads.
Yeah. And if you have a site with a search on it with us, that's what it is. It's the custom search engine from Google.
Yeah, the two things that we promote to people about search engine, the Google search and the Google Analytics, both of which are just sign up for, and then you can apply them to your site to use, which we highly recommend. The Google Analytics, we really recommend folks do that stuff.
So so analytics is like a whole. So you want to talk
Also,
about another?
That's a fourth thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
In addition to SEO, user experience, you know, laying out your site, analytics and how to extract data that's relevant, that you want to use. It's a whole separate topic and another several-day course I'm sure you can pay several $1,000s on if you want to. Which we'll try to condense into a 45-minute brown bag.
And Do It actually has a team that does this. Does it. Information architecture design. They have a team that'll sit down with you and go through all the information on your website and help you figure out how to organize it. Or you can hire an external company. There are companies that do that. You pay them and they'll help you figure out how to organize all your
So I know there's a Do It service, but I believe that I don't think it's. I think there's a charge associated with it.
Oh, sure, they charge.
So I just don't want people
they
to
charge less than the
call.
external one.
I'm not saying yay or nay. I don't want people to call them expecting, oh, come audit my site, and they go, oh, by the way. And it's good that we have the resource on campus. So I'm not trying to be one way or the other. Just this is business, right? This is and external companies will charge you. I'm sure if you did a Google search for analytics course, I'm guessing if you took anywhere more than a day course, it would be over $1,000, if not more. So.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
and if you want to self-educate, start with the beginner's guide. Some of the answers are out there, and if you start seeing some of those improvements in your site, then maybe that's all you need. You don't necessarily need to go to the course for it. So we are at 1 o'clock. We're more than happy to keep taking questions, but I just want to respect everyone's time in case anyone does need to get going. We will be here for as long as you guys have questions. I'll even keep the stream up in case people want to keep listening to any questions that come in. So, were there any more questions? Maybe not. Everyone's packing up, so I guess there's no more questions. So I do want to thank Jim Vogel one more time for talking about that. It was very, very valuable to us to help keep everybody informed of what's happening. So.
And thanks for all the work that the committee did.
Yes.
On that as well, because that's a lot of effort that the group went through to do that. So.
So, I guess sort of. I went to communication download the 3 templates on it. One that's campus light, one that's campus images,